that a lot of you will never come back, but that the sacrifice you are making will never be forgotten.
Yeah.
And that's what that buzzword to us. And we just loaded up, and the sea was terribly rough, you know. But the main ship wasn't too bad. But when we were transferred from the ships onto landing craft, then it was a different story. You know, it's like well, the feelings. You know, if you only can, you can't really describe it, because you know, if you ever have been seasick at sea when the ship is rolling up and down, then you would know what it is like. But none of us had ever had that experience before, and your tummy was you know, it was so tight, and the sergeant in charge of us, he was a lot older than us. He was about 28. We were mostly, we were any age from 18 to 20 or 22.
Yes.
That's our average age. And we were so sick that we felt that we didn't care whether we lived or died. That we had that feeling. And of course, when the ramps came down, and you actually got major way ashore, you know, because it wasn't quite on the shore, the sea so rough, and we were pushed, and when we jumped off, you know, it was only our heads, and us heading out above water, but we could just keep just enough to breathe. And so, and then there were bullets whizzing all around you, and then, fortunately enough, I was a good swimmer. I'd learned to swim, and we sort of crawled along the floor. The bottom of the scene, as it put up and bullets flying around, we crawled on my hands and knees when I came ashore. And what strength I had, feeling so ill, I just ran like mad, and then threw myself on the floor, on the sand, and just crept along to the best of my ability until we, you know, and the people could be killed right left and centre all around us, you know. But and fortunately enough, I was one of the lucky ones that didn't get killed. If you notice that somewhere. Once we've got to and got behind a part of a wall, you know, and we had the tanks had landed, and with the aprons were dropped down.
Yes. And
the tanks opened fire, and made a breakthrough. And we just followed the tanks as they advanced behind them.
How was the breakthrough? Did you break through easily, or did it take you a while? What did you do?
It was tough. We lost a lot of men breaking through it. We lost a lot of men. And how did you get through eventually? Eventually get through. Well, we got close enough to pillbox eventually, and we had a flamethrower on, which is, you know, and we managed to get a shot with a flamethrower through the part of a pillbox where I had a machine gun that was pinning us down, and we actually managed to get close enough to silence it.
Yes.
And then once we got over that, it was just that point. It was just going ahead with very little resistance for that period of time until we reached Caen.
So you could actually. It was pretty. To capture the beat, that was a hard thing to do, but after that,
Well, it was a hard thing, but fortunately, with the support from the Royal Navy, which had ashore, we wasn't aware of that at the time, but directing the firing against the German pillboxes, that the first shots went over the top, but signal from the beach itself, there was the instruction to drop elevation a few degrees, and the next wave hit the pillboxes directly.
Okay, well, that was it.
And that was when it was a tremendous feeling of happiness, and that, you know, that the defence was really being crushed.
Yes. Okay. So when you got through the first defense, what did you do after that?
Well, we took small villages, and in the house it was, and it's back on the farmyard in that part where a platoon of German soldiers, and our sergeant was on the house corner, and we gave him cover and fire to sort of keep the heads down of the Germans defending, and he went out and threw a grenade, which was not, he hadn't taken the pin out of it, and of course when the Germans saw the grenade coming, they thought it would explode immediately, but it didn't, and of course he was there and advanced right up in front of the box where they were, and as they showed them the car, he had his machine gun on him. You know, because it was a bit of a bluff, really.
Yes.
Because he never pulled the pin down, but he threw the grenade, and of course he put the heads down, and he dashed forward, and he finished up winning the Victoria Cross.
Oh, really?
For peace bravery.
Okay.
It was given an award.
Yeah. In what unit were you in that time? What was that unit called?
5th Division, 155 Brigade. I was in the 1st 5th Welsh Regiment. I never forget it as long as I live.
Yeah.
And my Air Force number and my Army number. How could I ever forget? It's imprinted in your mind. You know, it's like if you've got a telephone number.
Yeah.
You know, you never, ever, ever, you know, really forget. But that number has been with me, and I never ever said it for many years. But you know, when going back to Normandy, it all sort of comes back to me over a long period of time.
Yeah. When you actually got through the beaches and all that, you mentioned Caen. Did you participate in the Caen battle?
We attended. It was mainly, we were backing up that situation, but the main force in front were Canadian and Polish.
Okay.
They were the main thrust ahead, and they was criticised by the Americans because they said you should have moved a lot faster and suffered more casualties, more heavier casualties, to have closed the gap, which we didn't.
What did you do in the Battle of Caen? What was your part?
What was my part of the Battle of Caen? Well, yeah. I was on a number 2 Pied anti-tank gun.
Okay.
And I never actually shot at a German tank. I was mainly shot at house, you know, in the house. I fired in the house, in the room, and it went clean through the window and exploded inside and killed everybody who was inside.
Yes.
That was as near as I got in that part, in that battle. You know, when part of the Canadians and Poles eventually broke through and we were to back up what the Germans left behind.
Yes. So they broke through it, but they still left some.
They broke through it, but there was still an open part.
Yes.
Where the German SS Panzer Division escaped.
Okay.
And we formed up at Eindhoven.
Yeah.
Which became the British bridge too far.
Yes.
And Montgomery knew they were there, but still gave the order to carry on the air drop. Because
Market Garden was that?
Market Garden it was called, and he did that because he wanted to try and end the war with a swift blow and cut right through, instead of doing slowly. He intends to cut right through into Germany, and so that Germany would surrender and the war would come to an end a year earlier than what it did. That was his general idea.
Yeah.
But it should have been abandoned because of the German panzer regrouping there. But he should have decided, with the information he had, he should have abandoned it.
Yes.
But he didn't. He didn't. He went ahead with it. We lost the cream of our army there. We wiped out. And shot like televisions. But we did take the bridge. We did take the bridge. But we couldn't hold it because the reinforcements never came up.
Yes.
Because it was a narrow strip, water flooding each side of the road, and when the first couple of tanks got knocked out, it blocked the road. And of course everything moved so slowly, it didn't move fast enough. And the Germans had time to build and counter-attack.
Earlier we talked about the Falaise Gap.
Falaise Gap, yes.
Yeah, have you been there?
We haven't actually. The main force of the front attack was Canadians and Poles.
Yeah. So like Caen?
We were to follow up reinforcements, and we eventually managed to meet with the Americans to close the gap, which we did eventually.
Yes.
But in the meantime, fortunately, with the Germans trying to escape through the gap, the rocket-firing Typhoons and Hurricanes and Spitfires completely killed untold thousands. Because the Germans only had loads of horses at the time for transport and what have you, and the stench and the smell of burning bodies and the stench of burning flesh was completely overwhelming. You know, it made you feel so sick, you know, at the time. When we advanced on that point,
yes.
That was absolutely wiped out by the Air Force, you know, annihilated, you know, which were, you know, with bodies really rotting in the field, but had to have been killed for the day or two before we even got to that part. And it was mainly what closed the gap really was the strike with the column of Germans trying to escape, you know, but blocks escaped through the night, but when it came to the daylight, that's when the whole thing was brought to a standstill and the gap was closed. And then the Americans continued the advance after closing the gap, and then we had to stand by by that period before, instead of crunching on past Paris. Don't forget about Paris. No one about a celebration and let that streak. That general Engl go marching into Paris like he had the hero which we made him. He marched into Paris and Paris was liberated. And we didn't, it was the Americans and the French that marched through, mainly General de Gaulle with his expeditionary force went into, but we stood aside, and needless to say, we weren't too happy about that.
Yeah.
You can imagine, we weren't too happy about that after what we'd gone through, and we then we just sort of had a small gap of period, and then we pulled back from that side and went on back, advancing up through Belgium, Antwerp, and the Reichswald Forest.
What were your experiences in the forest?
Unbelievable. Because I was on the OP in the forest.
Yes.
And I was, when you're going through that part, and you're on an OP, and you're feeling desperately tired, and you want to go to sleep, but more than what you dare do. And there may be little like animals running about in the forest, like a rabbit and that, and you're breaking for a twig or anything like that, and you shit yourself, to be frank and honest with you.
Yeah.
You are so frightened. And And eventually dawn comes up, and when dawn came up, we was on the road going through the Veritable forest. As dawn came up, I saw a few Germans running across the road as dawn came up in front, right?
So you actually saw them, right?
I actually saw them running across the road in front of me, and then the sergeant came up to relieve me, you know, to go back to the main line. And that time, because there was everything was quiet for that period, and the chap would come to relieve me, and I was supposed to have gone with the sergeant up to where, you know, to the position where I explained it all to him, and the private that was in him was cocky and very arrogant. And he said, "But no," he said, "but mind you, I'm fortunate enough, he's much more experienced than I was." So the sergeant took him up to where exactly that I explained everything to him, and I went back to the main line. And within the hour, the sergeant and the private came back with four prisoners, because he actually caught the Germans in their trench, were having, you know, cleaning and washing, and naturally they said, "Hands are hockey, shoot them," and they actually took 4 prisoners, brought them back to the farmhouse where we were at that period of time, and the daughter and wife of the farm, because the farmer was not there, thought that but we told them to dig a hole, you know, the garden, digging a hole, and they dug this hole, and the woman and the fowl and the Fräulein thought we were going to shoot them. We were digging the hole and we were going to shoot them.
Yes.
But we weren't, because what we actually did, when we moved forward, what we couldn't take with us, we buried and destroyed it.
Yeah.
You know, didn't leave nothing. Never left nothing. But it wasn't, you know, we did just put rubbish and stuff we, you know, we couldn't take with us, just buried it, and then the prisoners were sent back as prisoners. And then the massive barrage started up, and then we advanced through the forest, and I will send you a picture of it before and after.
Okay.
After it was over, we had the pictures, and you see our tanks actually going through, and you see us in the infantry, and you see where the forest is in one, the whole forest was, it's just twigs start standing up.
Yeah.
It took a tremendous artillery barrage. And then eventually we hit the Rhine, then we crossed the Rhine. And once we crossed the Rhine, we had a mass artillery barrage before crossing the Rhine, and then there was a large air force, a large paratroop dropped, and once we got a few miles across the Rhine, then German resistance crumbled, and the average German but one spoke a little bit English, and we also learned a word or two in German, and it was the German forces and the captain, which we, you know, the one that we took prisoner, was begging us, when we join together against the Russians. And that was their contention for us to do. And if I say how I felt myself, I was sick of the war, I was sick of killing, I'd had enough, and I just wanted it to be over. And then we pulled in just outside Hamburg, before actually crossing into Hamburg and crossing the Elbe, and well, we were across the Elbe. I can't remember what we did before that period, but anyway, all I know is that there was a row of hedges, and there's this thick hedge, and we actually was digging into it to form a trench in case we were counter-attacked, and it was so easy digging this trench, and in fact I got down so far, and it was a German shithouse, you know, one of them.
Oh.
It was one of the places where they used to, that had as a toilet and they filled it in and was digging into it. It was just a little funny incident at that time.
Yes.
And then word came through that Hamburg has surrendered. So then we marched up, we started marching down the middle road of Hamburg, and that was on the 3rd of May, 1945.
Yeah.
And to our amazement, when we moved out into the dump, the rubble, and out came Germans from the rubble, they had built in the rubble parapets with gun sort of emplacements with more snipers. And as we were coming down that road in that period of time, the bombing wouldn't make no difference because the buildings were already flattened bombed, but they'd actually made that's like it's just like a shelf, a stand on it, and just looking over the top at the road coming down. And I would not be here today if Hamburg had not surrendered.